So, welcome to our podcast. I'm Joey Video Rental Stout, and this is Joel Touchdown Cox. And basically, what we do here is we're just going to go on just a stream of consciousness, things that we come up with, random things that hit our brain. No real subject matter, just whatever we feel like talking about. It's all very arbitrary. Just whatever you want to say, you say. Whatever I want to say, I'm going to say. And then you can Google search everything I say and prove me wrong. Sounds like a plan.
Yep. So, I think this actually started in college because we were neighbors.
The concept of us talking about random stuff.
Yep.
Yes, that's definitely.
Because after we became friends, that was right when I started my degree in computer science. Had a lot of programming classes, and you'd come over and we'd throw a movie on, and we'd just talk about random stuff while I'm coding.
I remember the first time we met. I had showed up to my dorm room. I come in, I throw all my stuff down. You had already been there a year before me, 2
Yep,
years before me.
1
You were
year.
the year before me, and so you were already comfortable with the whole college scene. But I was still young and fresh and a little bit terrified. And I'm getting in, I'm getting settled. I just met my other roommate, my real roommate. You weren't my roommate; you lived across the hall. But I was just barely settled in, and not even unpacked at the point. And you came walking in, door open, just walk right in. And I thought maybe you might have been like another roommate. Like I didn't know who you were. Like you walked in like you owned the place, and you went, "Who are you?" And I'm like, "I'm Joe." And you went, "What's your major?" And I went, "Theater." And you went, "You better not be gay. Dinner's at 5." And then you turned around and walked out the door. That's how you said hello. And I went, "Oh crap! I better get ready. Dinner's gonna be soon." So, and since then, I was like, this guy will be my best friend. And we hung out pretty much nonstop through college after that.
Yep.
That's how I met you.
I'm not gonna lie. There've been a lot of weird introductions with me in college.
Uh-huh. I can see that. I imagine so. I'm sure that a lot of people have maybe not similar stories, but equally offensive and shocking stories.
So can I tell the story?
Oh, if you have a story, you must tell it.
Academic Guardian.
Academic Guardian. Go ahead. You want to tell the story? You want me to tell the story?
I'll let you tell the story.
Well, okay, you can jump in anytime you feel good. So, I was not really a scholastic student. I was more of a freedom and gained some liberties. So I just kind of screwed around and did not do well in class. And
Well, to be fair, my sophomore year, I'm thinking, I know this place. I know what I'm doing. So the first month, played video games all night, hung out, did stuff. I noticed my grades weren't doing so well, and I was kind of not doing as well as I thought I should be doing. So I go, you know what? One night a week, I'm going to institute a study night for everybody. Because my room was basically a hangout room for the third floor
your
of our
room was
friends.
definitely the hangout room.
So we basically got together and we'd try and do some homework or whatever, and we'd sit there and listen to music. Have
That
movies
was
on the
the
background.
intention. I don't know how much studying we actually did.
Well, I got stuff done. I know you didn't.
I learned a lot about how to play Castlevania.
But I do remember second semester, your sister was worried about you failing out of school.
Yeah, well, because I was gonna fail out of school and proved her right.
Well, no, not just then, because if your academic career was in a nosedive, and Dan and I jumped in and pulled the stick back as hard as we could, and we barely
You tried.
We barely made it. Hey, you stayed in school for another 2 years.
No, I did not. I stayed maybe another 2 semesters.
2 semesters, 2 years. You didn't just drop out when you should have.
No.
We kept you in longer than you should have been.
Yes, yeah, you definitely. That was like the life preserver, right before. That's like the wooden door before Leonardo DiCaprio died in the ice cold water. Is what happened there. It kept me alive just a little bit longer.
So what happened was Joe's sister was like, "I'm pulling you out. There's nothing that you can tell me otherwise." So Joe comes to us, me and my buddy Dan, we gotta go visit one day.
Yes, we do. Yes, Dan.
Dan and I were like, "Hey, what if there's an academic guardian where we keep him from dropping out of school?" So we come up with this plan, and we tell Joe to tell sister he's in the academic guardian program.
And we made up our own plan, our own program for to, I guess, resuscitate students who were on the verge of failing out. And I told my sister that I had an academic guardian. I'd never told her it was you, because then she would have known it was a bunch of bull. but she bought it. She believed that I truly was in this program and she went to that school. She knew there was no well, maybe she didn't know because maybe
Yeah.
she wasn't ever on the cuff of getting kicked out of school before.
But here's the thing, though. We did try to keep you from failing out.
I was very.
There were many
resistant.
nights of English. How many times did you take English 100?
At that school.
3 times?
Twice there,
Twice.
and then once at CCAC.
So I remember many nights of you sitting at 2 o'clock in the morning in front of my Mac SE on a little stool typing your papers because the lab was closed or something had.
You had that tiny little crap computer. I remember that. It was the box computer with the green screen that I had to sit there and it was. I don't even think that was Commodore 64
Nope.
status. That was like This was like the first computer ever invented.
It wasn't the first. It was the Macintosh from '83.
The computer was had enough memory to write one paper on, and it was as big as a microwave.
But yeah, that's how we met.
Yeah.
But there's been a lot of nights of we'd be sitting there and I'd be working on a project or he'd just be sitting in my room. Hey, wasn't so and so in what's it called movie?
And then we'd have to watch the entire movie just to verify.
And the awesome thing was I had a giant library of VHS tapes that I taped.
You still do.
Yeah, well, can't watch anymore, but I now have DVDs. But still, the same rule applied was, well, that should be on so-and-so tape 100, should be in this bin, pull it out, throw it in, watch the movie, find that scene, woohoo, and then continue what we were doing.
That's back when we used to have to get up to play movies.
Mhm.
Like, that was you still had the rest of your room. You could turn your lights on from your laptop. You had your fan, your air conditioner, your
Telephone.
humidifier. What else?
The telephone?
Telephone. Everything worked through your laptop. You would, if you wanted the fan on, you would just be like Control Alt 7 L, and the fan would go on.
At one point, I had it set up that at midnight, the phone line would disconnect. And the phone line would not reconnect till 6:45.
So you couldn't be bothered at night
Yep.
because you knew that I was probably drunk trying to call you from across the hall.
Yep. So at
Joel, guess what? Joel, I love you.
So at 6:45 in the morning, a fluorescent light above my bed would turn on. My laptop would load my calendar to show me what it was due that day and what I had to do. I didn't go to the bathroom to take a shower or whatever. If it was wintertime, I had a little space heater on another switch that would turn on. When I come back, nice and toasty, ready to go, got all my stuff, and went out the door.
I remember you had on your computer, you went to class. You were leaving for I don't even care what class, and I was hanging out in your room, and I was probably supposed to be writing a paper, but I wasn't, or doing something scholastic that I just kind of said no. I don't remember even what I was doing. I actually think I was maybe working on something school-wise, and you had music playing. And we had listened to a bunch of different songs. There was a bunch of stuff playing for a while. And then all of a sudden, what is it, Tom's Diner?
Yeah.
Tom's Diner comes on. Do, 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 do. And I'm like, I like this song. So I'm just going through it. I'm doing my thing. And the end of that song matches up perfectly with the beginning of that song. So it was probably 20 minutes into your hour and a half class that I finally went, this isn't right. Like, I've definitely been listening to this song for too long. And so I'm paying attention to it. And so at the end of that song, and it's right back into the beginning again. And like you could kind of catch it if you're paying close enough attention. I was like trying to stop it, but I knew that if I hit the wrong button, not only would the fan turn on, but you would lose your mind because I screwed up your computer, and I was terrified to mess with your computer. So I was like, maybe if I hit L, and it didn't do anything. I was like, and I would only hit one button at a time, but I knew it was probably one of those things. I couldn't figure out how to turn it off. I just was like, I have to listen to Tom's Diner, or I have to go back to my room, and I didn't want to go back to my room because my room was boring. So I listened to Tom's Diner for an hour and a half until you finally came back, and I was losing my mind. And I was like, Joel, make it stop. And you were like, boop, boop. And then all of a sudden, like, something else came on.
I don't even know how that happened. Like,
I think you did it on purpose.
I didn't
dude.
actually. I actually did not do that on purpose.
You probably bumped the wrong button. You were probably like, oh, I better make sure the refrigerator defrosts, and instead you put Tom's Diner on repeat.
Maybe.
That's what happened.
But this is the kind of thing that happens. We just remember old stories, look up movie quotes, look up actors.
Right.
So, Joe here, as you can see, is very charismatic.
This is kind of like, I feel like we have our own radio show, but it's not like a radio show, because you can't be like, good morning everybody. This is not like Robin Williams in Good Morning Vietnam or something where it's like, oh, it's 0600, what's the O stand for? Oh my god, it's early, everybody get up. But this is like, it's something that people are going to download this and listen to this, and yet it's still kind of like a radio.
We call it a
personality.
podcast now, Joe.
You have no idea. Over the past week, I have been struggling trying to remember the word podcast. I was like, iPad something video soundy thing, and people were like, I have no idea what you're talking about. And I'm like, well, Joel and I are going to do it, and it's going to be awesome. But it's very, I remember back whenever I was a kid, like obviously there was no podcast. Like I remember sitting in front of the radio with my little tape deck trying to press play and record at the same time whenever your favorite song would come on, so you could make yourself a mixtape listening to the radio. Like the technology and how far we've come since then, that now like you can sit in somebody's living room and make your own radio show, your own podcast. It's uncanny how much has developed over the past several decades.
I was 5 or 6, and I was just the Roadrunner Wile E. Coyote. And I used to write little cartoons about the Roadrunner going into space.
You made your own Roadrunner cartoon?
Yes, it gets better. My mom gave me a tape recorder. I started recording my own radio show.
Why? Do we still have that? Can we
Nope.
play that?
Nope.
You still have it.
No, I do not.
You've never thrown anything away ever. You still have it somewhere.
This is
You just
before.
don't want
This is
it
before I
now.
got into technology and archiving everything I've ever done, so I can find it years later. And go, oh my god, this is awesome. But going back to then, I'm like, I made my own content then. So fast forward to 2004, 2005, this new thing called podcasting happened, and people would get together and do these. It used to be technology shows. So I used to listen to a lot of podcasts at my job at school, at the school district I used to work at, and then got laid off. Didn't listen to many podcasts. When I have a new job where I work for a company doing website stuff and database work, I got a lot of downtime of not talking to people. So I started listening to podcasts. First I started listening to audiobooks again. And when you go through an audiobook in a day or a day and a half, and you only get 2 audiobooks a month, you got to fill in the gaps.
So then you switch to podcasts.
So I switched back to podcasts. And I've burned through 3 or 4 series from start to finish that are over a year old.
You're like an alcoholic who runs out of booze and then starts drinking mouthwash. That's basically the equivalent of that.
Pretty much. But I've always loved podcasts because they can be about anything. And sometimes they get sponsorship, which is really awesome. The point is, they can be about anything and everything. They can be any format. And they don't get taken off the air. The guy just gets bored of doing it or needs money to do something. But like, there's a new thing called Patreon now in the past couple of years, where a lot of podcasts I listen to, they do a Patreon where they get donations. And it's an amazing thing because podcasts can actually sustain themselves now.
That's very cool. So it's like a collection plate at church.
Yeah, it's like a radio show, but it's not. It's kind of like, if you think about it, it's like having a DVR for shows, but the show can be about anything. You're not just tied to like HBO, Cinemax, whatever. Anybody can. A guy with a computer science major and a guy who didn't finish his theater major can get together and do a podcast.
Major.
Like, literally, I've got my MacBook here. I've got a microphone. I've got a headset. I've got an old cell phone that I'm using as a video camera.
And now you have your own show.
And I got some lights from Home Depot. Like, literally, I think for maybe, if I wanted to start from scratch, $1,300 could make yourself your own little podcast rig. Probably get a lot cheaper if you want to go down and dirty. But like, the sad thing is, because I've been in technology, I've had microphones, I've had cameras and stuff. So most of the stuff I already had it.
So a lot of this cost. This is a pack of light bulbs for you.
Yeah, pack of light bulbs.
That's what you.
And 2 things to hold lights. The rest is just crap I've had from.
You
whatever.
didn't have the lights already?
Those I did not.
That seems like something you would have.
Well,
or have made.
Well, when I was at the recycling company, what I used to do there was we'd sell stuff on eBay and Amazon. So we needed a photo box. So the thing with a light box, where you take a giant cardboard box, rebuild one, and you cover it in white paper, and you put through what's called 3-point lighting. That way there's no shadows. Unlike this, where there's shadows all over the place. My minor was in communications, by the way, and I'm pretty sure a couple of my professors probably yelling at me right now because I didn't do the lighting properly. But you know what? I'm just trying to do
theater major too, so
yeah.
Like I've built sets and stuff lighting before, yeah.
But anyway, with this light box, you take your item, you put it in the light box, you take pictures of it, and it looks amazing. Like, it looks professional. So I've bought those lights before, about 2 years ago actually, and I set up a light box and took all these pictures for eBay and sold all these items. So I know a little bit of what to do, but everybody and their brother's doing it now, and it doesn't feel special anymore that I know this stuff because like everybody knows this
I
stuff.
feel like the shadows actually make us better. Like this is one of those. This is really, it adds character to the show. I don't know if you can see the puppy dog there. That's a puppy dog.
So anyway, Joe loves talking. I don't love talking. I'm actually
You're doing great so far. Though. I
Exactly.
think you're doing awesome on this.
Funny
one.
story. At my job, they do personal development where you have these things to improve yourself and whatnot. And unfortunately, learning tech skills that my boss thinks I should work on, she wanted me to work on my people skills and talking to people. So I joined Toastmasters.
Toastmasters.
Yeah, Toastmasters is a public speaking kind of thing where you join and they do these meetings. I actually went to the first meeting last Tuesday, which we can talk about. But I'm not sure. The other reason I'm helping with this podcast is A, I like doing technology, and B, I need to work on my talking ability. So why not do it in front of the camera? I'll figure work my way up. If I'm comfortable doing the camera, then I'm comfortable on Toastmasters, then we come for meetings, and who knows, I might even go to management.
Is this going to be one of those things where like you're comfortable talking in front of the camera until we get our first comment back, or we start getting like interacting with audience members?
Oh,
like,
no.
when we get, like, Where like
I've learned.
are we going to get to the point where we're going to have like somebody able to type at the bottom, like just kind of like give us some feedback? I don't know how it works. I don't understand technology.
We could get to that point.
like,
But
if we
I'm
get to that
already,
point,
I'm
are
already,
you going to freak out and go
no.
interaction of people?
No, because here's the thing. I know what happens to podcasters. I know what happens to people who put themselves out the internet. Therefore, I'm prepared to read that stuff and go, they don't know me.
Right.
Because here's the thing. I am a better talker when I'm not talking to people. Like, my first public speaking class, do you remember my first public speaking class?
I remember you freaking out and kicking me out of the room as you prepared for something you had to do, like a presentation you had to do. I remember that much of it. But I don't remember like what your topic was or anything.
Then that might have been my second semester of freshman year, because I actually had a public speaking class that I took. My first public speaking class, like I did my first speech, I hyperventilated. I couldn't do my speech. Now they tell you in public speaking classes that you're supposed to look at the crowd, look around, make eye contact, have most of your speech memorized, use note cards. When I tried that, I hyperventilated and didn't do it. So then on, I stared at my screen, I stared at my cards, I would not look at the audience.
And that helped you get through it?
Yeah, I was a horrible public speaker, but I got the stuff out.
See, I actually like talking in front of an audience more because then I can like see the reaction and I can tell that I'm doing good or I'm doing bad, and it helps me adjust to it. Like here, if I sound like an idiot, I don't know. I'm going to get to the end and people are going to go, that sucked, not listening to these guys again.
Well, I'm the exact opposite. I don't want interaction. I don't want to be up there. I'm the guy behind the screen. Usually, I'm not
like literally behind the screen.
No, like when I mean behind screen,
we're gonna have to get you a chair that sets you up higher, just so people can see you if they watch the video.
Well, here's the thing. If this was 5-10 years ago, I'd be on the other side of the camera, running the camera, and you just hear my voice. I'm actually sitting in front of the camera.
I really truly thought that's the way this was going to go. I thought it was going to show up as going to be me talking, and every so often I was going to go, "Hey Joel, what's the name of?" And you were going to go from the background, and I was going to go, "Oh, thanks Joel," and nobody was going to hear a word you said. Like I thought that's the way it was going to be.
Well, so, I figured the first one, just give it a try. If I freak out, first one, I'll just do it in the back.
Yeah, wait till you see yourself on video, and then as long as you're cool and you're comfortable.
And I did.
Then...
I looked at the one for the first video we did, because actually we're doing the introduction after we recorded 3 videos already.
We've done a couple videos.
Movie reviews of trailers.
For now, and then we'll expand from there.
Yeah.
Well, there's a couple rules I was given by my brother. Told me there are certain things you cannot do, or else you will alienate your audience. He said you cannot talk about politics and you cannot talk about religion are the two, because if you talk about politics, you'll lose half your audience, and if you talk about religion, then you're going to lose the other half of your audience. So I feel like our next podcast should definitely be about politics and religion.
I am not going to do that.
I would think
because
think
there's actually a podcast called Politics. The guy talks about nothing but politics.
But here's the difference between him and us. I don't know squat about anything political, so I'm just gonna make stuff up, and I'm probably gonna say stuff that will offend people because that's just what I do. And I'm also going to call everybody in the audience bitches because they're bitches. You guys are bitches.
Well, if that's what you're gonna do, that's okay. But I'm not gonna do an actual politics religion one podcast because
Let's talk about Trump.
no.
Fine. Let's talk about religion.
No.
All right, I'm going to talk about religion then.
No.
No, let's talk about what do you want to talk about? Let's talk about.
Well, I think we're setting up the basis of what this show's about and who we are. My name is Joel Cox. I don't like long walks to the beach. That's another story we can talk about later.
Yes, that is a story we'll talk about.
Actually, my name is Joel Cox. I was a computer science major, and I did a lot of hardware work. I worked in IT. I worked for school districts. I worked freelance. I've done a little bit of everything. I'm kind of a generalist. But like I said, I love podcasts. I love technology. I like figuring things out. So I ran like chicken with my head cut off for about 5 hours from the time I got up till this guy showed up to set this up to look as nice as it does. Behind the camera, we don't want to see that.
That's a whole different. There's an illusion of how clean this place is
Yeah.
that you don't see, and maybe not really. Like if you look at this, other than Johnny Five over here.
Chappie.
Yeah, that's what I said. You got the marks all over the wall. We'll pretend like those are shadows. Nobody needs to know.
They might not show up in the video, actually.
Oh really?
Yeah. Well,
No.
I really need to clean more.
Cleanliness is.
But anyway,
not
I'm a
part of the
technology
show.
guy. I like dealing with technology.
I am the guy who does not shut up sometimes. I am the one who you have to go, oh my God, is he still going on? He's rambling. This is ridiculous. Will he never quit? I was a theater major, obviously back whenever we first met. Then from there I did what all great theater majors do. I became a waiter and did that for a multitude of years, way too many years.
I
Moved
thought
from
you would
that.
never leave Quaker Steak.
You know what? I do miss it. Waiting tables is one of those things. It was a woefully underappreciated job. People don't realize how much you do. People think you just fill a glass, bring them their Pepsi, and go, "What can I get for you?" And that's the end of it. But it's one of those jobs you run your butt off. But yet you love it. It's one of anybody who's worked in that environment will tell you that they loved it. They absolutely thrived in it. It's great money and it's an enjoyable job. But I left that to go back to school, and then I got into sales, and then from sales now I'm delivering, and that's just a horrible job. And if I could go back to any job, I would go back to waiting tables again. As much as I love the theater, I would probably go back to waiting tables, but it's not a realistic job. It's not a job that you're never going to retire off of that. Not a place you want to go.
You know what job I miss? I miss first year out of college. Got the job at this place we won't name the company. I was an IT manager by name. I actually was just the guy who fixed stuff and got yelled at. The company I worked for,
You were the whipping boy?
pretty much the technology whipping boy.
Okay.
So basically, this company built containers for spent fuel rods and nuclear waste. And the guy who ran the company wasn't, what's the word?
Competent?
Competent, a good guy. He had a tendency.
We have a list of words we're going to use instead of curse words.
We can't read.
was-
We can't read what the words for. They'll have to figure it out.
He was a jackwagon,
Yes, he was a jackwagon.
or he was a Bon Jovi.
He was more of a jackwagon than a Bon Jovi.
Okay, all right. So he was a jackwagon.
So, this dude would want to save money all the time, but in order to save $5, he ended up wasting $500 because he tried to save the $5. So, this guy, how can I put this? He did not know what he was doing. He always wanted a deal when there was no deal. Example: tape backup drive wasn't working right. Need a new one.
Oh, which drive?
Tape backup.
Okay.
Basically,
backup
big
drive.
tape machine that would back stuff up.
Okay.
Technical stuff. Anyway, I needed one, and he didn't want to spend full price. They were like a couple $1,000. I found one for $500 on eBay. Good enough for what I needed to do. He asked me extra guy if he'd take $300, just to see what would happen.
And the guy said
No.
7.
Well, I'm glad he didn't, but stuff like that. Anyway, long story short, I was 4-month contract to hire. 3 months in, I get a phone call from a friend of mine who tells me my job is in the paper. A couple weeks later, I figure I had enough. So I marched in there and said, you know what? I want a raise. I was making $12 an hour. I wanted 18. He said, no. I said, either you give me my raise or I give my 2-week notice. He goes, "You can't do it." I'm like, I live at home with my parents. I can do whatever I want. He gave it to me, and then laid me off about 4 months later.
Ooh.
But I worked for this web design company for a couple months, and that was fun. Not the dream job I'm about to tell you. I learned about freelancing. I worked for a company called ComputerRepair.com. So I started doing freelance work where I would actually wake up in the morning, check the websites, and find out what was available. And I just worked whenever I wanted to. I called the shots. It was awesome.
I don't think I could work a job where they let me have my own hours. Like, I am not responsible enough for that. I'm aware enough. I'm self-conscious enough that I know that if they said, you can work whenever you want, as long as you get XYZ done, I would be fired within the first pay period. They would go, clearly you are not capable of this job. Get out.
Well, the cool thing was I got to pick and choose the jobs I did. So if something looked like it was hard, I'm like, I don't feel like doing that.
See, unless one of the jobs was sit on the couch, watch Netflix, and masturbate, I probably wouldn't get anything done. So that just feels like I'm not quite at that maturity level yet.
Good to know.
Yeah. But if there is a job out there for, Netflix and masturbating, I do have a resume.
You don't really have a resume, Joe.
I don't have a resume, but I could put one together real quick. It would just say Netflix and playing with my peener.
Good to know. So I think we've rambled enough. It's been about 27 minutes since we hit play.
It's been about 27 minutes. It's been about 30. It's been actually 27 minutes.
And 26 seconds.
In 20 seconds, literally. All right, well, thanks for joining us, and hopefully you continue to listen to our podcasts and enjoy them. And if are we gonna have any kind of feedback from these guys?
Well, we need a website and all that stuff.
So no.
So we'll fill in the blanks somewhere down here or up here or somewhere on the screen.
that's
there'll
if
be
there's even
information.
video. Like if if there's
we
only
might not do
audio,
video.
you have no idea where he was pointing. So
Exactly.
in that case,
That's something you have to keep reminding me is in case we're going to do both audio
Yeah.
and we're shooting for audio, which is not a problem. We want to do video, but you have to remind me for the audio listeners, if I do anything with my hands or do anything that you think should be called out, you should say something.
anything wrong with your hands?
Anything I do with my hands.
Okay. All right.
Is there something wrong with my hands?
No. I'm just curious
Okay.
as to what wrong things you're going to do with your hands.
I'm not doing anything wrong with my hands. I'm saying if I do, like, say, hey, look at this, Joe.
Yeah,
And you're
right,
like,
right.
they can't see
They
it. Joe.
may not be. Let's
Yeah.
assume that everybody's blind.
Yes.
But
But we're going to sign off for now.
yeah, so you bitches don't have a chance to give us feedback as of yet, but whenever we do finally get to that point, let us know what you'd maybe like to hear us talk about, and we would love to cover that subject. We're willing to talk about pretty much anything except for religion and politics.
Yep.
I'm still willing to talk about those things. Sex, drugs, rock and roll, and tacos. Whatever you guys like, we'll cover it. So I think we're going to sign off now.
Yep.
And thank you for joining us.
Later.